We're looking in, like, is it a moment of silence or something?
Yep. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 13th, 2018 legislative session for the Salisbury City Council. At this time, we would ask you to silence all electronic devices or anything that makes noise. If for some reason you need to make a phone call or take a phone call, please exit the chambers and take it in the hallway. If for some reason an emergency should arise during the meeting, we ask that you leave in an orderly manner, make a right-hand turn and go down the stairs. If that exit is blocked for some reason, make a left, a right, and go down the stairs. Please do not use the elevators in case of an emergency. Should you need special assistance, please let us know and it will be provided to you. At this time, I'd like to call Pastor Betty Cropper of Riverside United Methodist Church to the podium for our invocation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Our scripture reading this evening comes from Romans, the 13th chapter, verses 1 through 7. I'm reading from the NIV. Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, whoever rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and those who do so will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers hold no terror for those who do right, but for those who do wrong. Do you want to be free from fear of the one in authority? Then do what is right, and you will be commended. For the one in authority is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for rulers do not bear the sword for no reason. They are God's servants, agents of wrath to bring punishment on the wrongdoer. Therefore, it is necessary to submit to the authorities, not only because of possible punishment, but also as a matter of conscience. This is also why we pay taxes, for the authorities are God's servants, who give their full time to governing. Give to everyone what you owe them. If you owe taxes, pay taxes. If revenue, then revenue. If respect, then respect. If honor, then honor. Would you bow your heads, please? Lord, as you anointed leaders and called prophets of old, lead us to recognize our true representatives and authentic leaders, men and women who love your people and can walk with them, who feel their pain and share their joys, who dream their dreams and strive to accompany them to their common goal. In your fire, with your spirit, embolden and commission us to transform our political system, to serve your people, and to bring real glory to your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Cropper. Appreciate it. Please rise now and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good evening, Andy. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
The floor is yours.
All right. Well, we are in for a treat this evening. So I've got to stand in today. We're going to do a proclamation, a couple presentations. But before we jump right into it, one thing that's neat that we were able to receive something from one of our citizens here, and I thought I'd give a little backstory before we jump into it. But, you know, from time to time, people clean out their attic and inherit possessions, and they stumble upon these forgotten treasures. And luckily for us, Barbara Lee Evans was able to find this special poem with a lot of meaning to the city of Salisbury. The poem, titled Salisbury City, was published in 1904 in The Sun, known as the Baltimore Sun now, by a person with the pen name of the Benston Bard. So who is the Benston Bard, you may ask? And I was curious myself, so I looked it up, and this gentleman, his name was Folger Mackenzie. He He was born in 1866, and he's an Elkton native. He was also a friend of Walt Whitman, which I thought was pretty impressive. And he wrote for the Baltimore Sun for 42 years. And he had such a great career with the Baltimore Sun that in his obituary they wrote, "He is the voice of the veritable Maryland. No one ever knew the state better. Every nook and cranny of it, from mountains to sea, understood it more sensitively or loved it more than he." So I thought that was really appropriate, and as I get ready to read this poem called Salisbury City, I think it is relevant to our city, and it is still, it still discusses kind of the things that we think at heart, even now, 100 plus years later. So I will do my best in my best voice. So this is a Salisbury City by the Benston Bard. Salisbury City, you sing to me, a song of the shade of the maple tree, a song of shallops that come and go on the windy waves of Wicomico, a song of streets where the golden stream drifts by sweet mansions of golden dream, and homes high deep in the green retreat of lawn and lilac on Water Street. Salisbury City, look up and tell the secret springs of your golden spell. O home, sweet Hamilton, I love to bide in the silver lisp of thy river tide, on wharf and bridge in the afternoon, to follow the stream through its valve of ruin, to orchards fruited with peach and pear, and mansions nestled in the dreamland there. Winding away with the river's flow, sing me thy legends, Wicomico. Tell me the stories of days of old, when dames were gracious and cavaliers bold, and boxwood grew by the winding way, that dame and squire with the grace of yore smiled all men welcome unto their door. Salisbury City, so near the sea, that salt air comes on the winds to thee. Hometown, sweet with elder sense of courtly spirit and pride intense. Under the maples and o'er the plain, the hunters come to call the game. The dancers twinkle in their mansions sweet, and I listen to the patter of the slippered feet. Streets of comfort and rests of dream, ripple of river and list of stream, bateau, pungy and buck-eyed swift, to and fro from the doorway drift. Salisbury City, I love to wait by lilac lanes and bloom-bowered gate, to see thy shadows of sweet old days trip by the Chadouse and Polonaise. Salisbury City, you sing to me of winding river and maple tree, of streets that dip to the gentle tide, and homes so sweet to the homely pride. They sit far back in a world of green, to see the world and to be unseen, to dream and rest and call us home from roaring cities and rolling foam. Folded sweet in they golden years are childhood fancies and childhood tears. Ah, what dear city, my song of thee, were sweet as the song you sang to me, when over the drift of the days that are, I see you shining in the grace afar, where the maples bend and the vessels go over the winding waves of Wicomico. Thank you. Now, we have a couple people with us this evening to receive an appreciation certificate. Barbara Lee Evans was under the weather, but I'd like to bring forward Teddy Evans and Dana Bell, please. Teddy is her husband and Dana is her daughter, so please come forward. So the certificate of appreciation reads, presented to Barbara Lee Evans from the city of Salisbury for sharing Salisbury City poem about our fair city. May P. Richardson, her mother, had saved the poem from the Benston Bard, as published in 1904 by The Sun, Baltimore, Maryland. Upon finding the poem among her mother's keepsake, Mrs. Evans graciously shared it with the city of Salisbury to be kept among its historical memorabilia. So thank you, I appreciate it so much.
Thank you. Just my daughter, Dana.
Nice to meet you, Dana. I appreciate it. Would either of you like to make a comment or anything?
Just appreciate the thought.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Nice job, Andy. Very
This
nice.
one will be a little bit different.
Huh? Go ahead.
So this is
You're
a
going to have another
proclamation.
poem?
It is- If I can get through that, everything else is easy. So this is a proclamation. Whereas Maryland is home to 156 municipalities in addition to the city of Salisbury, which was incorporated in 1854. And whereas municipal government represents the most responsive level of government, allowing citizens to have direct access to elected officials. And whereas Maryland cities and towns have celebrated Municipal Government Works Month each month since 1993. in an effort to promote citizens' awareness of and interest in government and their communities, and whereas those same cities and towns have educated over 27,000 students and their teachers about how municipal government works through school visits in their respective communities. And whereas municipalities have enhanced the quality of life for the respective residents by maintaining natural and historical sites and structures local to the cities and towns, making Maryland a great place to live, work, play, and explore. And whereas an effort to educate citizens about municipal government and the importance of their participation, the city of Salisbury is proud to promote municipal government awareness. Now therefore, I, on behalf of Jacob R. Day, Mayor of the City of Salisbury, do hereby proclaim November 2018 as Municipal Government Works Month in our city, and I'm joined by the Maryland Municipal League in promoting awareness and interest of citizens in the city of Salisbury's local government. So you have this proclamation, and I'd like for anybody that's right where you are, if you work for municipal government, please stand where you are to be recognized. Or you can come up here, you probably want to stay where you are. Feel free to stand up too. So I'll hold on to this. And I think that is it. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I speak on behalf of all the council members that one of the biggest joys that I have is when we go into the schools and talk to the students about the government, the local government, and to watch them, and they're so energized by being able to sit across. Now, if you're not the mayor, you don't get the big hoopla, but it's really enjoyable, and I know that we've all done it, and it's great. Some of us do it every day, God bless them, and we really enjoy it, so I'd like to make a point of that. At this point, I would entertain a motion and a second to adopt the legislative agenda as presented.
So moved. Seconded.
Mr. Rudisil and Ms. Jackson. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Boda, Mr. Ireton. Good evening, Mrs. Nichols.
Good evening. I don't have a poem, but what I do have is nonetheless no less exciting. We have some appointees, but we have the October 22nd council meeting minutes, the October 22nd closed session minutes, resolution number 2877 approving the reappointment of Albert G. Allen III to the Board of Zoning Appeals for term ending November 2021. Resolution number 2878, approving the appointment of Virginia Bender to the Election Board for term ending November 2024. Resolution number 2879, approving the appointment of Dr. Catherine Jones to the Disability Advisory Committee for term ending November 2021. Resolution number 2880, approving the reappointment of Dr. Francis Kane to the Ethics Commission for term ending November 2022. Resolution number 2881, approving the appointment of Louise Smith to the Housing Board of Adjustments and Appeals for term ending November 2022. Resolution number 2882, declaring that 500 Riverside Realty LLC is eligible to receive enterprise zone benefits for property located at 500 Riverside Drive in Salisbury, Maryland. We have 5 manufacturing exemption requests, all for equipment purchased during 2017. The first is for Delmar Brewing Company, LLC. Over the next 5 years, they will benefit by a total savings in personal property taxes of $30,910. Next is Delmarva Printing and Design, Inc. Over the next 5 years, they will benefit from this exemption by a total savings of $5,297. LWRC International LLC will benefit from this exemption by a total savings of $70,339. Mason-Dixon Machining, Inc. will benefit by a total savings of $1,101. And Realcomm Technologies, Inc. will benefit by a total savings of $644. This concludes the consent agenda.
Comments, questions? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of the consent agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Nichols. At this time, I'd like to recognize any of the individuals who are here, so if I call your name, please stand. Albert G. Allen, Virginia Bender, Dr. Catherine Jones, Dr. Francis Kane, Louise Smith. Thank you. We thank you all for serving. We appreciate it very much. I would also like to point out that it's great to see the manufacturers taking advantage. When they're investing, that means it's good for the city. And for a long time, for many, many years, we didn't see a lot of these. And to have 5 this time is a very good sign for us, and we hope that that continues. I'll now entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2883.
So move. Second.
Ms. Jackson and Mr. Boda.
Resolution number 2883, a resolution of the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, authorizing the capacity fee of the city's comprehensive connection charge to be waived for the redevelopment of 132 East Main Street. Whereas First Move Properties LLC has requested a waiver of the capacity fee for the redevelopment of 132 East Main Street, and whereas the proposed development is located inside the city limits in the Central Business District, and whereas the city seeks to encourage development and redevelopment in the Central Business District, and whereas the city seeks to reduce the capacity fees for eligible development and redevelopment in the Central Business District by means of an equivalent dwelling unit EDU incentive area, and whereas the proposed redevelopment of 132 East Main Street requires 27.04 EDUs or equivalent dwelling units of water and sewer service, and whereas the property is currently 1.38 equivalent dwelling units, therefore the net allocation requested submitted by First Move Properties LLC for its redevelopment of 132 East Main Street is 25.66 equivalent dwelling units, and whereas the current capacity fee for one equivalent dwelling unit is $3,533, and whereas the capacity fee for 25.66 equivalent dwelling units is $90,656.78. And whereas the City Council approved a capacity fee waiver process under ordinance number 2258 for development in the Central Business District, and whereas the Director of Infrastructure and Development reviewed the request and has determined that the project is eligible for the capacity fee waiver, and whereas the Mayor reviewed the request and supports sending the request to the City Council, and whereas, if approved, the EDU allocation for the capacity fee waiver is valid for 2 years from the time of signing of this resolution, and whereas the property owner has the option to request an extension of the allocation for 2 one-year terms, if approved in writing by the Director of Infrastructure and Development prior to the expiration of the term, and whereas the allocated EDUs are assigned to the redevelopment of 132 East Main Street and cannot be transferred by the recipient. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland approves the waiver of 25.66 equivalent dwelling units of the capacity fee for the redevelopment of 132 East Main Street by the First Move Properties LLC.
Questions or comments? Just one quick, do you have an update on how many EDUs we have left?
Good evening. If council passes this resolution, we will have used 109, and we will have 190.54 EDUs remaining.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of resolution number 2883, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. This evening, we have two public hearings, and I would ask now, we'll swear in all the people that anybody that's interested in testifying for either of those hearings to please stand and be sworn in by the clerk. Okay. All right, I'll call for a motion now and a second to approve ordinance number 2506.
Second.
Mr. Ireton, Mr. Boda. Mr. Tillman, could you please read the ordinance?
Thank you. This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury pursuant to Chapter 17.228 of Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code and Section 4.203 of the Land Use Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland to amend Chapter 17.196 off-street parking and loading standards, Sections .020E and H, subsections .030 and .060 to reduce the number of vehicle parking spaces required and add requirements for bicycle parking, whereas the ongoing application, administration, enforcement, Title 17 of the zoning of Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code demonstrates a need for periodic review, evaluation, amendments, and will keep Title 17 current. And whereas the mayor and city council may amend Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code pursuant to the authority granted by Maryland Code Land Use Section 4-101 at SEEK, and in accordance with specific provisions of Chapter 17.228 amendments and rezoning of Title 17 zoning. And whereas the mayor and city council request that the Salisbury Planning and Zoning Commission periodically review Title 17 in light of existing procedural practices and input from the city council and members of the public, and whereas a public hearing on the proposed amendment was held by the Salisbury Planning and Zoning Commission in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 17.228 of Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code on August 23, 2018, and whereas the mayor and council of the city of Salisbury desire to establish updated parking standards, and whereas the Department of Infrastructure and Development researched parking standards and evaluated the existing standards, and whereas the parking standards should address lifestyle trends that encourage other types of transportation, and whereas the Department of Infrastructure and Development recommends modifying the existing code to update the parking standards, including the addition of requirements for bicycle parking. Whereas the Salisbury Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval of the proposed text amendment in Section 17.196, now therefore be it enacted and ordained by the City of Salisbury that Chapter 17.196 of the City of Salisbury City Code be amended as follows. And the under 17.196.020 General Standards E, existing facilities, there is the addition, the removal of the word at and the addition of the word on in line 51. There's the addition of the initial date of adoption of this chapter in line 52, and also the words and any amendments thereto, also in line 52. In 53, there's the addition of the word changed. We're taking out the word as, adding the word so, and then also adding the words was legal when the structure or use began, and has, and we took out the word is, and also took out provided that and added the requirement for parking spaces. So basically the section will read parking spaces and lot serving structures and uses in existence on the initial date of adoption of this chapter, and any amendments thereto shall not be subject to the changed requirements of this chapter so long as the kind or extent of the use was legal when the structure or use began and has not changed. And any requirement for parking spaces, lots, or facility now serving such structures or uses shall not in the future be increased or otherwise changed in kind or extent. So basically, everyone else is being grandfathered as they were under Section H. The requirement for off-street parking spaces under paragraph 1, it will now, I'll just do the way it will now read. All uses and structures shall provide off-street parking spaces in an amount equal to and not to exceed the number required in Section 17.196.030 parking space requirements, except by an approved request made to the Planning Commission as described herein. And then next, property owners may request up to 20% more parking spaces than allowed by the Section 17.196.30. The request may be granted upon a finding that the use of the property will require more spaces than are available within 900 feet of the property, either on the area streets or in public parking facilities, or that the use requires that additional parking be located on site. And then it says the Planning Commission may grant a request to allow additional spaces and impose additional requirements to address the impact of the additional spaces. Additional requirements may include the use of pervious pavers, the installation of vegetative planting or structural screening beyond that otherwise required in this chapter and in Chapter 17.220, and the installation of sidewalks, walkways, pedestrian lighting, landscaping, and other site improvements beyond that required in this chapter in Chapter 17.220. The next changes down below are really just, where we reorganized, and it's just making the section conform with that. And then the last number of changes on page 3 is just re-lettering what was already there without any significant change. And then the big change, of course, I guess would come under 17.196.030, parking space requirements. And they've just been revised to reflect what we believe to be the new norm or the better practice for parking spaces. I assume you don't want me to go through all of that.
No, that's not necessary.
And then, of course, the new addition, once you get through that section, is under 17.196.060, minimum bicycle parking by land use. And that has a schedule of required parking. It says in all districts, space for parking and/or storage of bicycles shall be provided, or the applicant shall demonstrate that adequate bicycle parking is available. Bicycle parking shall be provided in accordance with the following schedule. And this is a new schedule that sets forth what is required for the various uses of the land. And then it says under waiver or modification that the Planning Commission may waive or modify the bicycle requirements in the CBD, RRMU District Number 1 and RRMU District Number 2 upon a finding that there is an adequate supply of publicly accessible bike parking already provided within 300 feet. And then the other design of bicycle parking spaces is just actually describing what the spaces will be like. I assume you don't want me to go through all that, but I'll be happy to read it
No,
if you
that's
prefer.
fine.
Okay. And that is it.
Questions or comments? At this point, I'd like to open the public hearing. Anybody wants to speak, please stand. All right, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. And now I'll entertain a vote to approve ordinance number 2506. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Mr. Tillman, would you read ordinance number 2507, please?
This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, pursuant to Chapter 17.228 of Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code in Section 4.4-203 of the Land Use Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland for the purpose of amending 17.76.02A to add church or other place of worship as a permitted use within the light industrial district. And then, without going all the whereas clauses are pretty much very similar to what was read previously, that you can make these changes. It indicates that this change was made at the request of Sperry Van Ness Miller Commercial Real Estate, submitted an application to amend Chapter 17.76 Light Industrial District to add church or other place of worship as a permitted use under Section 17.76.020A. And a public hearing was held in this matter before the Salisbury Planning and Zoning Commission and on July 19th, 2018, and the commission did recommend approval of the proposed amendment. And now therefore be it enacted and ordained by the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code is hereby amended as follows. Amend Section 17.76.02A permitted uses by adding the following item. And the new permitted use is church or other place of worship.
Okay, can I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 2507?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ireton, Ms. Jackson. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody that wishes to speak, please rise. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Questions or comments from the,
I can't remember, I don't want to get deep into the making of the sausage here, but I thought we were going to do the church first and the bikes second, is not to incur. I did read Mr. Drew's response, which by the 7th paragraph, I wasn't sure what my original question was, but he does an incredible job at explaining things. But I don't know whether or not I agreed or disagreed, but I thought we said something about doing the churches first and then doing the bicycle second, is not to have a church incur additional costs as they're moving to a new building.
There was a discussion,
Right.
but I don't remember what we,
I don't remember either, that's actually why.
I was not here, so I can't help you.
No,
We had a real long discussion about the bikes and everything went really, really well. And then the church thing came up and we did ask the question is, would the church end up incurring cost to redoing its parking lot because of what we had done with the bicycle ordinance previously? And I think we joked that we needed to do one right before the other.
I think it's okay, and the only reason I say that is because they can come before the planning board and ask for more
More spaces.
spaces.
And that's in 17030.
That's in, yes, I believe.
And
Hold on
that's
me a
to the
second.
planning.
Yes,
So
it is in there.
Because if
Correct.
an industrial building did want to become a church, they still would have to come to us first, so we could let them know that that's the process.
Right.
Fine.
Right.
That's fine. Thank you for
Yeah.
refreshing, I appreciate it.
Okay, then I will call for the vote. All those in favor of ordinance number 2507, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Just for the public's benefit, the reason for these parking changes was to overall reduce the load of stormwater and the waters that would get into the river and the Chesapeake. And the way that we do that is use of pervious pavers and also the vegetation and things like that. So it's really the first step to reduce our load of amount of water that's going through stormwater. Correct? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2509 for the first reading.
so moved.
second.
Mr. Boda, Ms. Jackson. Mr. Tillman.
It's an ordinance of the City of Salisbury authorizing the mayor to enter into contract with the Department of Justice for the purpose of accepting grant funds in the amount of $433,469, authorizing the mayor to enter into a subrecipient agreement with Wycomico County Circuit Court and approving an amendment to the FY 2019 grant fund budget to appropriate funds to enhance the Wycomico County Adult Drug Treatment Court. Whereas the City of Salisbury, in conjunction with the Circuit Court of Wycomico County, applied for funds through the U.S. Department of Justice Drug Court Discretionary Grant Program, and whereas the DOJ has awarded the city funds in the amount of $433,469, and whereas the City of Salisbury must enter into a grant agreement with the Department of Justice defining how these funds must be expended, and whereas the city is sub-granting $359,019 to the Circuit Court for Wycomico County, and whereas all funds shall be used to enhance the Wycomico County Adult Drug Treatment Court through law enforcement visits, rental vouchers, random call-in software, and others, and whereas the City of Salisbury must enter into a subrecipient grant agreement with the Circuit Court for Wycomico County defining how these funds must be expended, and whereas the city is retaining $84,450 for the Salisbury Police Department overtime costs, housing, first rental vouchers, and indirect program costs. And whereas Section 17-29 of the Salisbury City Charter forbids the mayor from entering into a contract that requires an expenditure not appropriated or authorized by the City Council, and whereas the appropriations necessary to execute the purpose of this grant must be made upon the recommendation of the mayor and the approval of 4/5 of the council of the City of Salisbury, now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Salisbury that the council of the city of Salisbury hereby authorizes Mayor Jacob R. Day to enter into the grant agreement with the Department of Justice for acceptance of these funds, and be it further ordained that the council of the city of Salisbury hereby authorizes Mayor Day to negotiate and enter into subrecipient grant agreement with the Circuit Court for Wycomico County for the purpose of expending these funds. Be it further ordained that the city's fiscal year 2019 grant fund budget be and is hereby amended as follows. Increase adult drug court grant revenue account 10500-423101 by $433,469. Increase the non-clerical overtime expense account by $23,155, and increase the transfer to housing and first expense account by $51,264, and increase the operating expense account by $10,031, and increase the subrecipient Wycomico Circuit Court expense account by $359,019. Be it further ordained that this ordinance shall take effect from and after the date of its final passage.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2509 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2510 for the first reading.
So moved.
Ms. Jackson, Mr. Ireton. Mr. Tillman.
This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Department of Natural Resources for the purpose of accepting grant funds in the amount of $120,500 and approving an amendment to the FY 2019 grant fund budget to appropriate funds for improving Waterside Park through a new playing field, playground, signage, parking lot, and stormwater improvements. Whereas pursuant to Resolution 2766, the City of Salisbury applied for funds through the Maryland Department of Natural Resources Community Parks and Playgrounds Program, and whereas the DNR has awarded the city funds in the amount of $120,500, and whereas the city must enter into a grant agreement with DNR defining how the funds must be expended, and whereas all funds shall be used to improve Waterside Park for Salisbury's West Side neighborhood, and whereas Section 7-29 of the Salisbury City Charter forbids the mayor from entering into a contract that requires an expenditure not appropriated or authorized by the city council, and whereas the appropriations necessary to execute the purpose of this grant must be made upon the recommendation of the mayor and approval of 4/5 of the council of the city of Salisbury, now therefore be it ordained by the city council of the city of Salisbury that the council of the city of Salisbury hereby authorizes Mayor Jacob R. Day to enter into a grant agreement with the Department of Natural Resources for acceptance of these funds, and be it further ordained that the city's fiscal year 2018 grant fund budget be and is hereby amended as follows. Increase community parks and playgrounds grant revenue account by $120,500, and increase the community parks and playgrounds construction expense account by $120,500.
Any questions or comments? I just have one comment. Keep up the good work, Ms. Talbot. We like to see those grants.
Yes.
I'll now call for a vote on ordinance number 2510 for approval.
So moved.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2511 for the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Boda, Ms. Jackson.
This 2511 is an ordinance of the city, an ordinance of the council of the city of Salisbury for renaming a portion of North Division Street to Knock Way, whereas the Salisbury Charter SC 11-2 gives the city charge of all public ways in the city, and whereas the northernmost section of North Division Street lies between Decatur Street and Priscilla Street, extending 360 feet and is completely disconnected from other parts of North Division Street by approximately 3,000 feet at the closest point, and whereas the city transferred the intervening right-of-way to the State Highway Administration in the 1930s to build Route 13, and whereas the broken and segmented nature of North Division Street causes confusion amongst drivers navigating to businesses and to the 1955 War Memorial on the isolated portion of North Division Street, and whereas the Knock family has a long history of entrepreneurship and philanthropy in the Salisbury community, and Knock Insurance is located on the isolated portion of North Division Street, and whereas the Knock family owns 2 of the 3 private properties on the street segment, and whereas the Department of Infrastructure and Development has determined that there are no existing street names in the city of Salisbury or Wycomico County that are the same as or similar to Knock Way, and whereas there are 3 properties utilizing this segment as a street address, and the majority have all given their consent to the name change, now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Salisbury that the Council of the City of Salisbury approves the renaming of the portion of North Division Street extending northerly from Decatur Street to Priscilla Street to Knock Way. Be it further ordained that this ordinance shall take effect immediately upon the date of its final passage.
Questions or comments?
I need to make an amendment.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I thought we were going to use the Knockway, but use a term with, as far as military or veterans. Along
Knockway
with
is going to be the GPS 911 address of that street. And then the other one would be like out here on Court Street. There, it says Sam Vincent,
Like P. Cooper Way?
like
I understand
Cooper
what you're
Way.
saying.
So that's something that is going to take a while to do. This is something that will, like if somebody types it in their GPS, it's going to go to Knockway. The other one is a ceremonial thing. It's not like the official name of the.
I understand what you're saying.
Right, I thought we were gonna try and see some examples of what we wanted it to look like
Yes,
before we went further.
that's what I thought.
I thought that was going back to work session, but I mean, I'm fine with this, but will we be able to see something soon?
Well, that was something that the suggestion was to have the school students.
Yeah, I had school students
Right,
too.
essays
Come up
and
with
stuff.
what they
Yeah.
want.
Yeah, we'll want public input
All right.
for that.
Yeah, that's something that'll take a while.
Okay.
But I would like to make an amendment to this. It's minor, but it's necessary.
Running up the
So, on line 10, you have it down as Decatur Street. It's actually Decatur Avenue. And then on line 36, the same thing. It says Decatur Street, but it's actually Decatur Avenue. I should know that because that's the street that I live on.
I thought that would
Thank you.
be a probable reason.
Second?
We have a motion to amend by Mr. Boda and a second by Mr. Ireton to change street to avenue,
Tab.
Correct.
and wherever listed.
Correct.
And we'll vote on the amendment first. All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. With that amendment, I will now call the motion to approve ordinance number 2511 for the first reading. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And the chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2512 for the first reading.
So move.
Second?
Ms. Jackson, Mr. Ireton? Mr. Tillman?
It's an ordinance of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, to remove parking from Waverly Drive between Carroll Street and South Boulevard. Whereas the Salisbury Charter, Section SC 11-2, gives the city charge of all public ways in the city, and whereas the ordinance number 2215 created a bike route along Waverly Drive, and whereas the City of Salisbury desires to encourage the use of bicycles throughout the city, and whereas the Department of Infrastructure and Development proposes to rebuild the bike route along Waverly Drive to increase the safety for bicyclists, and whereas the rebuilt bike route on Waverly Drive from Carroll Street to South Boulevard will consist of a protected two-way cycle track on the east side of the street as shown on Exhibit A, and whereas the construction of the two-way cycle track will require the removal of on-street parking spaces near the intersection with South Boulevard, and whereas a recommendation of the proposed parking elimination is attached as Exhibit B, now therefore be it ordained by the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that City Council does hereby remove on-street parking on Waverly Drive from Carroll Street to South Boulevard, and be it further enacted and ordained by the City of Salisbury that this ordinance shall take effect upon passage.
Questions or comments? Excuse me. Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2512 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I am losing my voice, so bear with me, you know. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2513 for the first reading.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Rudisil,
Second?
Give it to him.
Ms. Jackson, oh, you were first, so, all right. Mr. Tillman.
This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, Maryland authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Department of Homeland Security for the purpose of accepting grant funds in the amount of $42,577 and approving a budget amendment of the grant fund to the appropriate funds for the purchase of enhanced marine/dive operational equipment to be used by the fire department in the protection and delivery of emergency services to the citizens of the Salisbury Fire District. Whereas the Salisbury Fire District has need to purchase enhanced marine dive operational equipment to enhance operational efficiency and effectiveness, and whereas the City of Salisbury made application for grant funds for this purpose from the program administered by the United States Department of Homeland Security under the Port Security Grants Program, and whereas the fire department has been offered a grant award in the amount of $42,577 from the DHS as part of the Port Security Grant Program to be used for the purchase of enhanced marine dive operational equipment, whereas the federal share of the project cost is $42,577 and the city's share of the cost is $14,192, and whereas the city's share of the cost shall be funded in whole by the Salisbury Fire Department volunteer corporations, and whereas the City of Salisbury must agree to the terms of the documents in the award package attached as Exhibit A, and whereas Section 7-29 of the Salisbury City Charter forbids the mayor from entering into a contract that requires an expenditure not authorized by the City Council, and whereas the appropriations necessary to execute the purpose of this grant must be made upon the recommendation of the mayor and approval of 4/5 of the Council of the City of Salisbury, now therefore be it ordained by the City of Salisbury that the Council of the City of Salisbury does hereby authorize Mayor Jacob R. Day to enter into a grant agreement with the Department of Homeland Security for acceptance of grant funds in the amount of $42,577. The city further accepts the contribution of $14,192 from the Salisbury Fire Department volunteer corporations. The city expresses its sincere appreciation to the United States Department of Homeland Security, Port Security Grants Program administrators, Salisbury Fire Department, Inc., Station 16, and Salisbury Fire Company Number 2, Station 2, for their recognition of and contribution to the city's efforts to enhance the efficiency and effectiveness of the services provided by the Salisbury Fire Department to the citizens of the city and the Salisbury Fire Department. Be it further ordained that the city's fiscal year 2019 grant fund budget be hereby amended as follows, with an increase in Port Security Grant DHS revenue account by $42,577, increase in Port Security Grant City Match revenue account by $14,192, and an increase in Port Security Grant equipment expense account by $56,769.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2513 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Do we have any public comments?
Yes, sir.
We don't have any public. We had posted a notification that the council, upon completion of the regular meeting, will take a vote to convene in closed session to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice on a legal matter in accordance with the annotated Code of Maryland 3-305B7. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to convene in closed session.
Second.
Mr. Ireton? Second by Mr. Boda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We are now in closed session. Thank you. All right, the council just came out of closed session where the council discussed the FCC small cell order with our legal counsel. If there's no other items, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Interesting.